You're listening to Radio 103.3 or what's left of it. The static came first, ragged, bleeding through the silence like something half alive. At first, I thought it was interference. I tapped the mic, switched the channels, checked the board, the backup generators, the tower connection. Everything was operational, but the static remained, like it knew I was listening, like it was waiting for me to speak. I'm not sure who's still out there. Maybe no one. Maybe too many. But if you can hear me, if your radio still works, if your batteries aren't drained or you haven't smashed it against the wall from frustration, then I'm here. I'm still broadcasting. And I'll keep going until I can't. My name's Alex. No last name tonight. Just Alex. I've been running this late-night station for 13 years. Normally I spin vinyl, play old rock ballads, blues at midnight, a little gospel before dawn. But there's nothing normal anymore, is there? Let me backtrack. It started slow. Not like the movies. No meteors, no sirens, no sudden plague dropping people like flies in the street. It was quieter. Like the world was drawing in a deep breath, and never let it out. 3 days ago, the birds stopped flying over the hill behind my studio. I noticed because every morning they'd rise up in a noisy black cloud from the trees, just as the sun came up. I used to time my coffee to that flight, but the sky stayed empty. No flapping, no chirps, just stillness. Then came the outages. Not everywhere, just odd places. A diner across the street, a gas station 20 miles south. Places you'd expect to be immune to strangeness, going dark like someone had pulled the plug. But power at the studio? Still good. Towers? Still pinging. And then, yesterday, no, it was early this morning. Time slipping, I got a call from a woman. She didn't give her name. Her voice was ragged, like she'd been crying for hours. She said, "Don't stop broadcasting. Whatever you do, don't go silent." I asked why. She paused, then whispered, "Because they only move when it's quiet." The line cut. I tried calling back. Nothing. Dead air. And then the static began. It's not just noise. Not anymore. There's something under it. A pulse maybe. A rhythm. It matches my heartbeat sometimes. And other times it skips ahead like it's excited. I know how it sounds. I know you think I'm tired. Sleep deprived. But I've had nothing but lukewarm black coffee and adrenaline for the past 16 hours, and I've never felt more awake. Right now, I'm sitting in my booth, microphone hot, headphones tight. I've sealed the doors. The studio windows are boarded. Not from fear. From instinct. You learn to trust that voice in your gut when the world turns upside down. And my gut says, stay loud. Stay visible. Stay human. I'm not the only one noticing things. One of our old listeners, Greg from Cedar Bluff, left me a voicemail earlier tonight. Said his dog, who never barked in 12 years, started growling at the TV. The screen was off, unplugged, but the reflection of the living room showed someone else standing in the corner. He turned around. Nobody there. When he looked back at the screen, it was just him again. Alone. He swore it was real. His voice cracked like ice. And then, he hung up. That was 2 hours ago. I've tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. And here's the thing. My monitors picked up a faint signal 5 minutes ago. One I didn't authorize. A whisper between frequencies. Barely audible. I've slowed it down, reversed it, filtered it, and isolated it. This is what it said. Keep talking. I don't know if it's a warning or a request. Maybe both. I'm gonna play it for you now. Just once. Brief silence, 3 seconds, then distorted, layered whisper plays. Keep talking, keep talking, keep. That wasn't from here. I don't have those kinds of effects. I don't do audio tricks. I never needed to. My show's been about real music, real people, real voices. Until now. I want to tell you something else. Something I've kept to myself until tonight. 2 nights ago, I started dreaming the same dream. Over and over. I'm walking through the woods outside the studio. The trees are frozen. Not by snow, but by sound. Every branch, every leaf, it's vibrating, humming. There's no wind, no birds, just this low, massive hum, like the skies holding a note only the dead can hear. And in the distance there's a tower. My tower. But it's upside down, roots into the air, cables dripping like veins. And beneath it, a circle of people in silence. They're not doing anything, just standing, listening. And one of them has my face. I wake up sweating. Every time. Last night I didn't wake up alone. There were footsteps in the hall. I live alone. I grabbed the mic hit record. Said nothing. Just listened. The steps stopped outside the booth. A pause. Then the knob jiggled. But it didn't turn. I sat frozen for over an hour, mic hot, breath shallow. Then I whispered, "Who's there?" The static exploded through the speakers. Not from the hallway. From inside the booth. And through the noise, I heard my own voice whisper back. "You are. I've deleted the recording. Or tried to. It won't erase. That's why I'm here tonight. Because if something's listening, if something's echoing us, I want to make sure we echo louder. If you're out there, if you're hearing this, don't let the silence in. Do whatever you must. Sing, scream, whisper your own name into the void, but make noise. Real noise. Not the kind they send. Not the kind that crawls in when you think the world's asleep. You're not alone. There are still voices. Still signals. This is one of them. I'll be back after the next dispatch. Stay tuned. And remember, the first thing to vanish was the birds. I stayed in the booth long after the static died. It left behind a silence so thick I could feel it pressing against my chest, as if the absence of sound had weight, like fog curling into your lungs or the moment just before thunder breaks. I thought about stepping outside. I thought about chasing down whatever was behind the voice that used mine like a puppet. But I didn't. Maybe it's cowardice. Or maybe it's wisdom. Either way, I stayed. And that's when the second signal came through. Weak, intermittent. Barely enough to register. But there. A voice. Broken by distance, or maybe by something worse. It came through on one of the backup frequencies we rarely touch. Frequency 117.9, known internally as the deadline. It used to be reserved for outposts, small rural relay stations that connected farms, ranches, mountain cabins with the main grid. Outposts like Outpost 17. I hadn't heard that name in years. I didn't even realize it was still operational. The message came in chunks, like trying to hear a confession shouted through a storm. This is, to anyone, repeat, we are still here, for now, something's wrong. Then silence. Then the long hiss of breath through an open channel. Then a phrase, said so softly it could have been wind. Echoes. Echoes from the edge. I froze. Something about the tone. About the way that last word clung to the static like a memory refusing to die. I tried tracing the signal, but it wasn't coming from a specific tower. It was bleeding in from multiple nodes, like someone was bouncing the transmission through abandoned wires, back alleys of radio space we haven't used in decades. Outpost 17. That place used to be manned by a couple, older folk, Harold and June. They weren't tech-savvy, but they were consistent. Every Sunday they'd check in with weather conditions, livestock reports, prayer requests. Harold had a slow voice, the kind you trusted. And June, she'd hum when she was nervous. Little lullabies, old spirituals. Beautiful and a little sad. They stopped checking in 5 years ago. No explanation. I assumed they'd moved. Or passed. But I never took them off the logbook. Habit, maybe. Or hope. Now it sounds like someone, something, is back there. Or using it. I tried sending a return signal. No response. So I did what I always do. I recorded. I documented. That's my role now, I think. Not just to speak, but to remember. To bear witness. I found a voicemail saved under the Outpost 17 log. It wasn't dated. It wasn't from Harold. Or June. The voice was young. Male. Tired. And terrified. He said, Something moved through here. Not walked. Not ran. Moved. The trees bent toward it. Like they were listening. Like they wanted it. I thought I saw a person. But the body, it shimmered. Like bad reception. Like it didn't belong in this picture. He paused. Then laughed, dry and bitter. Radio's the only thing still working. But it talks back now. It finishes my sentences. Sometimes it starts them. Sometimes I say things I didn't mean to say. Then silence. Then, I think I'm not alone in here. Not anymore. If you get this, if anyone hears me, tell them not to trust the signal from Cedar Bluff. It's bait. I checked Cedar Bluff's broadcast logs. There was a live signal an hour before I heard that message. Crisp. Clean. Too clean. I remember hearing it and thinking it felt off. No regional accents, no glitches, no static. A perfectly neutral, almost synthetic voice saying, "This is Cedar Bluff Relay. All is well." Repeat, "All is well." But it had no local ID. No verification code. Just a smooth stream of reassurance. Like warm milk poured over sharp teeth. My skin crawled. Because if this caller was right, someone, or something, is mimicking safe signals. Using them to lure people in. To collect them. To study them? I don't know. I reached out to my contact in the Northern Hills. Claudia. She runs a micro-broadcast for a handful of ranchers out there. She's practical. Paranoid. Never trusts anything automated. If anyone was still listening through the noise, it'd be her. Her reply came in a handwritten fact. She always did hate digital. Her message said, "Outpost 17 is gone. Saw the plume from 20 miles. No fire. Just light. Like the air itself had been torn open. And then quiet. Not peaceful. Just wrong. Like a theater before the scream." Claudia doesn't exaggerate. And if she saw that from 20 miles out, and there was no fire, no wreckage, no storm, then what was it? I replayed the signal again. Just the phrase. Echoes from the edge. I swear, each time I hear it, it sounds closer. Like the voice is adjusting. Learning how to say it better. Cleaner. And beneath it, a sound I can't explain. Like fingers tapping the inside of a glass jar. Hollow. Impatient. Here's the part that haunts me. I reversed the audio, ran it through a filter meant to strip out frequencies outside the human range. What I got wasn't a voice. It was a rhythm, like Morse code, but older, less precise, organic. I ran it through an old translator we use for geologic pulses, earthquakes, subterranean movements. It matched a pattern used in cave mapping sonar. The message? One word. Listen. That's what it's doing. It's listening to us, me, you. Through every word we speak, every signal we send, it's not just hearing, it's learning. So I'll say this again, and I'll say it every hour if I have to. If you get a signal that sounds too perfect, don't trust it. If it tells you everything's fine, don't believe it. Real survivors sound like this. Broken, scared, awake, and still human. If you've heard the phrase, echoes from the edge, I want you to call in. Right. Broadcast in Morse. Bang on your pots and pans if you have to. Let me know I'm not alone in this translation nightmare. Because right now we're not just surviving, we're broadcasting. And if that thing out there is listening, then so are we. I'll return after this. Stay with me. And don't trust the light. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. After that last message. After decoding something that shouldn't have been human, yet knew how to mimic us so well, I just sat there in the dark studio. My hands still resting on the controls. My eyes fixed on the red on air light. A small thing, but somehow comforting. As if its glow could hold back everything else. The problem with staying awake, though, is you hear everything. Around 3:07 a.m., something shifted. Subtle at first. A tension in the air. Like the moment just before a storm hits when the world gets too still. The hairs on my arms stood up. My ears felt full, like they were underwater. And then, sirens. But not the usual ones. Not police, not ambulance, not fire. These were deeper, slower, less urgent and more ritualistic, rising and falling in these perfect intervals, as if someone was tuning the entire sky. They didn't come from town. They didn't come from the base, or the dam, or the old refinery out west. They came from everywhere. I stood up, headphones off, trying to locate the source, but the sound was all around me. Like it wasn't just traveling through the air, but through everything. Through the walls, the glass, my own chest. And then, suddenly, a sharp, staccato burst, a new siren layered beneath the others. This one was higher, panic. I know this sound. Civilian Evacuation Protocol. Last used during the 2003 dam breach drill. A system no one's touched since. But this wasn't a drill. The emergency board lit up, and for a split second it didn't show codes or updates. It showed a message, handwritten looking, like chalk scratched across a blackboard. Too late to leave. Stay within voice range. I blinked. The message vanished, replaced by static, then silence, and then a call came in. I almost didn't answer. Something about the timing, 3:07 a.m. sharp. It felt orchestrated. But I did. Radio 103.3, I said. This is Alex. Go ahead. A long breath. Then a child's voice, barely above a whisper. They're not sirens, she said. I swallowed. Who is this? No answer. Just the sound of something metallic being dragged across a floor. Then she said, "Their songs. To call the others home." The line cut. I stared at the receiver. My whole body cold. I tried to trace the number. No origin. Just a void. Like it came from nowhere. I sat back down. The mic still hot. I whispered, maybe more to myself than anyone. "Who are we calling?" No answer. No sound. And then the birds. Not flying, no. But screaming. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, crying out all at once, as if stirred awake by the sirens. Or maybe warned by them. They didn't take flight. They just screamed. Until they didn't. Until the sky was quiet again. And the only thing I could hear was the steady, nauseating hum of the studio equipment, and the blood rushing through my ears. I want to be clear, I've lived through blackouts, wildfires, that freak hailstorm that crushed every windshield in town. But I've never felt anything like this. This wasn't nature. This wasn't panic. This was organized, coordinated, like something out there was watching us, taking notes, testing the volume. Just before 4 a.m., I got a brief transmission from a fellow broadcaster. Kenneth, from 91.1, 2 states north. We used to exchange tape. He was big on jazz and conspiracy theories, the kind of guy who'd say, "There's a pattern here," about a vending machine eating his dollar. His message was broken, filled with interference, but I got enough. "Alex, if you're hearing this, they've started taking the mouth. Not the people. The mouth. As if they're stealing voices. Not killing. Not yet. But emptying people out. Leaving them." And then the audio twisted. Warp. Not static. Not distortion. Laughter. Not Kenneth's. Too layered. Too clean. As if a choir of people, none of whom had ever laughed before, were trying it out for the first time. Practicing. The message ended with a single phrase. "Stay near sound. It's the only thing that confuses them." I didn't broadcast it. I couldn't. Not yet. I needed time to think. To breathe. To cry, maybe. But that would mean silence. And silence, I'm learning, is the most dangerous thing of all. I've started playing loops beneath my voice. Not music, just noise. Low, shifting tones. The sound of a heartbeat stretched out. A record spinning with no needle. My own breath, played in reverse. I don't know if it works. But I haven't heard the footsteps again. And sometimes that's enough. For those of you still listening, I know it's night. I know it's cold. But find something that makes noise. A wind chime. An old speaker. A generator. Hell, bang a spoon on a pan. Do it for the ones who can't anymore. Do it so they don't come close enough to listen. The sirens have stopped now. But I don't trust the quiet. And neither should you. Stay tuned. I'll be back after the next update. The quiet didn't last. It rarely does anymore. Just after I signed off that last update, the hum in the walls started again. Not mechanical, not electrical, not anything I could identify. More like the sound of attention, of something listening so closely it bends the air around you. I shut off the lights, sat in the dark, let the faint loops of sound I'd left playing do their work. That's when I remembered something from the early days, back when this was still a music station and I ran a midnight segment called Lighthouse Hours. It was meant to be a comfort for truckers and insomniac. Just me, a soft voice, slow jazz, and a lot of dead air I was supposed to fill. One night, a listener called in from a cabin up in Finch Hollow. Said his name was Tom. Quiet guy. Said he didn't mind the silence. But he kept a window light on every night anyway. Why? I asked, curious. He chuckled and said, so the world remembers I'm still here. And maybe, just maybe, someone will light one back. That stayed with me. A lot of people around here used to do it. One window lit. Just one. Never more. Like a code. A silent wave through the dark. Not a scream, not a flare. Just a soft acknowledgement. I'm alive. But something's changed about that light lately. I got a message today from a woman named Jules in Ferridge. I know her voice. She's called in for years. Said she always keeps a single yellow lamp in her front window, just like her mother used to. But last night, she said, the light came on by itself before sundown. She lives alone. The lamp's analog. No timer. No sensor. Just a pull string. She didn't touch it. It turned on. And around midnight, she said, someone knocked. Not a hard knock. Not rushed. Just soft. Patient. She didn't answer. Didn't move. Watched through the crack in her curtains. She never saw who it was. But when she turned off the lamp, just to see what would happen, the knocking stopped immediately. Then, across the street, another house's window lit up. No one lives there. It's been empty since the Whitaker family disappeared last spring. Now Jules doesn't sleep. She just sits near the lamp, unsure whether to unplug it or leave it on. Because here's the thing, when she tried to pull the string again, it wouldn't budge. I asked her what it felt like. She said, like the lamp was listening. I don't have a lot of advice to give anymore. Not the kind that fits in bullet points or emergency checklists. But maybe this one's important. Don't break the window light protocol. Whatever it was originally, hope, signal, gesture, it's different now. It's become part of the pattern. And you never want to be the break in the pattern. I used to believe that hope was always safe, that a light in the dark was a good thing. But now I'm starting to wonder, what if they see it as an invitation? I've started blacking out the windows in here. All but one. That one has a soft blue bulb behind it. Old school glass filament. I leave it on, not because I want to be seen, but because I want to be counted. As what? I don't know. But something about the light seems to keep them from getting too close. Or maybe they're just waiting. There's more. A listener from the Eastern Ridge, Milo, sent a voice recording he captured on his porch camera. Time-stamped 2:43 a.m. You hear the wind. A rusted swing creaking. Then footstep. Slow. Almost polite. Then a voice. Not from Milo. A stranger. Flat, emotionless. It says, you forgot your window. Then the bulb explodes. Glass rains down. The swing stops. And the recording ends. I played it backward, ran it through a spectral analyzer. There's a tone layered under the voice. Too deep for humans to register consciously but present, like a subsonic note meant to disrupt or awaken something. The tone matches the frequency from that earlier broadcast, the one I traced to Outpost 17. There's a pattern. It's always the light. First, it turns on by itself. Then the knocking. Then the message. You forgot your window. Then the silence. I don't know what happens after that. I don't want to. But if you have a lamp by your window, unplug it. Wait 10 seconds. Then plug it back in yourself. Make sure it listens to you. Don't let the patterns get too deep. Don't let the rituals run on autopilot. That's how they learn. That's how they replace. I don't know if this matters. If saying it aloud stops anything. But I believe in the power of voices. That belief is all I have left. So, light one window. Keep one room noisy. Speak, even if it's just to yourself. Even if your voice shakes. Especially then. I'll be back after the hour. And if something knocks, don't answer. Not until you check the lights. I stayed by that single blue-lit window for hours after signing off. Just listening. Not to music or voices or static, but to the space between. That quiet tension where sound should be. It's where they live, I think. Not in the noise. Not even in the silence. But in the in-between. The spaces we overlook. Around 5:16 a.m., something strange came through the board. A broadcast, but not ours. Not from any regional station. Not one I could trace. It didn't follow any signal pattern we use. No call sign. No ID. Just a sudden hiss, and then a voice. It was a man's voice at first. Calm. Measured. Like a meditation guide or an old-school news anchor. But his words didn't make sense. Not in order, anyway. The syntax was off, like someone had torn up a transcript and stitched it back together with tape and guesswork. He said, "You have been listening to the yesterday broadcast of tomorrow's emergency serenity." I recorded it, played it back 3 times. The second time, the voice had changed. It was mine. Same tone, same cadence, same breathing pattern. It was like listening to myself, but with the wrong words. As if someone had captured my voice and was using it to deliver nonsense dressed up as comfort. I couldn't breathe for a second. Not out of fear. Out of recognition. It felt like looking into a mirror and seeing someone blinking slightly out of sync with you. The third time I played it back, something new happened. Under the warped words, layered just beneath the audible track, was a second voice. Whispering. Urgent. "Find the hollow voice," it said. "He speaks in shapes." I don't know what that means. But that's what I'm calling it now. The hollow voice broadcast. I've tried to isolate its source, but it moves. It shifts frequencies mid-transmission. Sometimes halfway through a sentence. It doesn't want to be found. Or maybe it wants to be chased. I ran it through everything, band filters, signal scramblers, even analog conversion through reel-to-reel. At one point, when I slowed it to 1/4 speed, something cracked open. The voice became clearer. But it wasn't human anymore. The timbre was wrong. It had layers. Overlapping harmonics that shouldn't exist in a single throat. It spoke not with breath, but through breath. The words? "We remember when you were quiet." Over and over again. "We remember when you were quiet." Like a mantra. A curse. A memory. I shut it off. Immediately. Not out of fear. But because I could feel the walls starting to listen. The way you feel someone behind you in a dark hallway before you ever hear them step. I checked the emergency alert system. Locked out. Password rejected. Admin override disabled. I'm the only one with clearance, but something had already been there. The log said an alert had been queued for 4:44 a.m. The message? Broadcast begins. Humanity ends. I didn't write that. I didn't schedule it. But the system thinks I did. I pulled the plug. Manually. Yanked the power from the wall. But even then, the speakers hummed. Not buzzing. Not mechanical interference. Humming. Like a throatless choir in the walls. I don't know how long I sat there, heart pounding, fists clenched, staring at the blank display screen. Eventually the humming stopped. But something else replaced it. A memory. Of a listener from 2 winters ago. A blind man named Ray who used to send in tapes of sounds he recorded around town. Wind tunnels, echo chambers, the distant clang of railways at night. Said he used to be an acoustics engineer. claimed the world had a soul you could only hear if you stopped talking long enough. His last tape came in marked, "Do not play on air." Of course, I played it. It was just wind. For the first 2 minutes. But then, faintly, a voice. His voice. Saying, "It's not about what they're saying. It's how. They don't speak like us. They resonate. And if you resonate back, they'll notice. They'll answer." Then the tape cut to static. Not white noise, gray noise. Uneven, broken, pulsing. I'm starting to think Ray was the first to hear them. Maybe he resonated back. Maybe that's why he stopped sending tape. I found myself whispering to the board, to the hums, to the static. Not out of madness, I swear. Out of desperation. The way someone might talk to a locked door they're not sure wants to stay closed. And something whispered back. Not with words, but with breath. Like an exhale inside my ears. Or inside my head. And now, my own recordings are different. Slightly off. I re-listened to my earlier dispatch. The one from midnight. I don't remember pausing between words the way I did. I don't remember my voice catching. And I definitely don't remember the line. They live inside the intervals. But it's there. Plain as day. The broadcast is changing. Or being changed. So from now on, I'll record everything on analog. Reel to reel. No cloud. No digital. And I'll leave a tape outside my door every morning before sunrise. Just in case someone finds me gone. If they do, at least they'll hear my real voice. And not the hollow one. Be careful who you listen to. Be especially careful when the voice sounds like someone you love. I'll be back when I know it's still me. I made myself a promise after that last broadcast. I wouldn't speak into the mic again unless I was sure it was still me on the other side. But how do you measure that? When your own voice feels foreign, when your thoughts stutter in unfamiliar rhythms, when your memories rewrite themselves in whispers. I played back my own emergency message 3 times this morning. And every time I reached that line, "They live inside the intervals," my mouth went dry. Not just because I don't remember saying it, but because of what came after it the 4th time I played it back. A sound. Buried under the silence between words. A clatter. Sharp. Metallic. Echoing in a space that wasn't this room. It took me a moment to place it. The sound of a shopping cart being pushed across linoleum. The kind of sound you only hear in one place anymore. A grocery store. I don't know why I followed the instinct. Maybe part of me still believes in symbols. Maybe I was just hungry. I hadn't eaten since the night before last. So I packed up the handheld, clipped on the lav mic, and drove to the only market within walking distance of the station. Brightway Market, off Route 9. It used to be a 24/7 place, but the lights were out when I arrived. Not off, just dimmed. Like someone had smeared Vaseline over the inside of the bulbs. The parking lot was empty. But every cart was stacked perfectly in the corral, wheels aligned. Too perfectly. It's a detail I wouldn't have noticed before all this. But now? Order feels like a threat. Like someone, or something, is trying too hard to mimic what it thinks we used to be. I stepped inside. The automatic doors still worked. They opened too slowly, though, as if reluctantly. And the sound. Not silence. Not music. A single song on loop. Something soft, old, a warped instrumental cover of "What a Wonderful World." But here's the thing. It was playing backward. And slow. I couldn't move for a second. Because in that twisted lullaby, something stirred inside me. Like a memory I didn't want. A funeral I never attended. A face I never saw. There were footsteps somewhere deeper in the store. Not rushing. Wandering. And then the sound of a can rolling across tile. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" No answer. Just the music. Slurring. Drowning. I took out the recorder. Pressed it to my chest. Let it run. I needed proof. For you. For me. Aisle by aisle I walked. First the produce. Then dry goods. Then cold storage. And that's where I found her. A woman. Maybe late 40s. sitting in front of the freezer section, cross-legged as if meditating. She didn't blink, didn't move, didn't breathe, but her mouth was open, just slightly, and a single sound came out. Constant, steady, a hum. The same note as the sirens from 3:07 a.m. I knelt slowly, said her name, because I recognized her. Cassie. Used to be a school nurse. Called into my show once about a song that helped her through chemo. She didn't respond. Just kept humming. I moved to touch her shoulder. And the moment I did, her voice stopped. The music stopped. Everything went still. And in the silence, the freezers all opened on their own. All at once. A blast of cold hit me. Sharp. Full of memory. And then I heard a voice, not from her lips, from inside the freezer. It said, "Cold preserves what heat forgets." I ran. Back through the aisles, past the carts, through the slow opening doors. Into the sunlight. The hum followed me for 3 steps, then vanished. I don't know what that place is now. Not a store. Not anymore. It's a confessional, maybe. A trap. A museum. Where people become mannequins of memory. Posed in grief. Humming the lullabies of a world that no longer exists. When I got back to the station, I played the recorder. My own breathing. The music. The voice. All clear. But Cassie? She's not on it. Neither is the humming. Just silence. And me. Asking her name. Over and over. To no one. I don't know what to believe anymore. So I offer this. If you find food, eat only what you recognize. If you enter a place that plays music you don't remember, leave. And if you hear humming, especially if it's your own voice, run. These aren't hauntings. They're rehearsals. Echoes of who we were. Who we might be again. If we're not careful. I'll be back tonight. If the mic still belongs to me. And if it doesn't, listen carefully. You'll hear the difference. I haven't left the station since coming back from the market. That place still clings to me, on my skin, in my throat. The freezer's breath, the sound of her hum, that warped version of a world that never really existed. It's like the cold got into my bones and hasn't thawed since. So now I sit here. The mic warm beneath my fingertip. The static softer tonight. Almost gentle. As if whatever's been listening is tired. Or satisfied. I don't trust that. Around dusk, the signal board lit up again. This time it wasn't a voice. It was a series of coordinates, broadcast in short bursts. A voice synthesizer reading them out, monotone and exact. Not a real voice, but built to sound close enough to pass if you're tired. Or scared. I ran the coordinates. They point to a clearing northeast of here. Deep woods. No known structures. No power grid. No trails. But I know that place. Years ago, before I ran this show, I spent a summer helping build fire breaks with some forestry guys. We cleared brush, moved rock, set markers. That clearing? It was never just a clearing. It had a foundation. Broken concrete. Cracks wide enough to lose your foot in. One of the guys said it used to be a military relay point, long since buried. We weren't supposed to ask questions. So I didn't. But I never forgot the way it felt. Like standing in a place the earth wanted to forget. I wouldn't think twice about ignoring it, if not for the calls. 4 of them. All from different people. Or so it seemed. Each said the same thing, just in different voices. We made it to the coordinate. There's light. There's food. There's warmth. Come quickly. But here's the thing. There were no ambient sounds. No background noise. Not even wind. And the exact same pause before, come quickly. Too perfect. I tried to call one of them back. The line connected, but no ringtone. Just a faint crackling. Like a fire. No voices. I recorded all 4 calls and played them side by side. The voices were identical. Not in tone. In rhythm. They were reading from the same script. Even the tremble in the voice was perfectly placed. So I checked the coordinates again. Sent out a listener ping. Short wave pulse. Something only real handhelds would respond to. I got a single reply. Text only. 3 words. Map is wrong. That's it. No name. No location tag. No response to follow up. Just map is wrong. I haven't been able to stop thinking about that since. Because if the map is wrong, what else is? The land? The stars? The voice in your ear telling you you're not lost? I pulled out an old atlas, one that predates GPS, digital updates, all of it. The clearing isn't on it. Instead, that spot is marked with a single note in faded pencil. No return. I don't know who wrote it, but I believe them. I keep replaying those fake calls. They sound so warm, so certain. The way someone does when they're standing on the edge of a cliff and believe they can fly. I made one last attempt to ping the area. This time I used audio, a short clip of my voice saying, "If you're alive, speak your name." I got a reply. Not a name. Just the word Alex. My name. Spoken in my voice. But I never recorded it. Not like that. And then the whisper returned, just barely audible beneath the transmission. Don't trust the map. Trust the shadows. They stay where the world was real. I don't know what that means, but I'm starting to suspect that whatever's happening out there, it's not just physical. It's spatial. Foundational. Geographic truths are folding in on themselves. The ground might look the same, but it isn't. Like walking down the hallway of your childhood home and realizing the doors lead somewhere else now. Somewhere colder. So here's my warning. If someone gives you coordinates, ask who else heard them. If you hear identical messages from different voices, don't follow. And if you get to a place that feels too safe, too warm, turn around. The real world is jagged now. Cracked. Comfort is a trap. And maps are just suggestions in a world that's changing faster than we can redraw it. I'll be back at first light if there is a first light. And if not, I'll follow the shadows. Not the coordinates. I didn't sleep again. I've stopped trying, honestly. The nights blur now, stitched together by flickering lights and half-whispered reports. I just pace the station, headphones on, mic warm, listening for patterns in the quiet. Waiting for the next lie wrapped in comfort. Or maybe the next truth wrapped in fear. The coordinates haven't repeated. At least not directly. But just after 2 a.m., I got another call. It came in quiet, like someone was pressing the phone against their chest, muffling the sound. All I could make out was this soft, breathless whisper. "Dog won't stop barking, it's been hours." Then silence. I said the only thing I could. "Are you safe?" A few seconds passed. Then a reply. "I think so. He's not barking at the window anymore." I froze. What's he barking at? Another pause. Then the call cut off. I don't know what made me remember their name. The woman. Caller ID said Becker. And then it hit me, Samantha Becker. Used to be a vet tech out in Ridgefield. Called in once about a stray she patched up. Said it never wagged its tail, not even once. Just sat at the door every night and stared into the trees. Like it was waiting for something it remembered but couldn't name, she'd said. I tried calling her back. No answer. But that same barking, her dog's barking, came through the broadcast line not 15 minutes later. Unprompted. No source. Just a patch of transmission filled with frantic, scraping barks. And beneath that, something else. A low sound. A rhythmic one. Breathing? No. Imitating breathing. Too even. Too mechanical. Like someone practicing how to sound alive. I boosted the gain. Isolated the frequencies. That's when I heard the growl. Not the dog's. The child's. Deep. Wrong. Playful. Almost laughing. That's when it clicked. Her message hadn't been about fear. Not entirely. It was confusion. The dog wasn't barking at the window anymore, because whatever had been outside wasn't outside now. I looped the audio over and over. Each time, the laugh got clearer. Not in volume, but in structure. It mimicked the dog. Growl for growl. Bark for bark. Like it was learning. Adjusting. I pulled a recording of a normal bark from an old jingle we used to run for a pet shelter ad. Played it on loop for 20 minutes. Nothing. Then I added the child's laugh underneath it. The studio lights flickered. For just a second. Coincidence? I don't believe in those anymore. I kept listening to the original call. At the very end, right before it cuts, there's a faint sound most would miss. The clink of a dog tag. And a voice, Samantha's, saying, "Good boy, stay here." That's the last human sound in the file. I don't know why that broke me. Maybe it was the finality. Maybe it was the way she said it, like she knew she wouldn't be the one staying. Maybe because I'm starting to believe the dogs know more than we do. They don't trust light. They don't trust silence. And they never trust what looks like a person but doesn't smell like one. There's something primal in that. Something true. I got another voicemail, left on an old emergency line. A man sobbing, panting, half mad. Said he tried to leave the house, but the dog blocked the door. Said he forced it aside. Got outside. That's when the barking stopped. He paused. Cried harder. Then said, "I haven't seen him since, but I still hear him barking. Inside my head. Like he's warning me from somewhere I can't get back to." And then nothing. Call ended. I don't know what to make of all this, except maybe one thing. If you have a dog, listen to it. If it growls at something you can't see, don't try to see it. If it barks at the door, don't open it. If it whines but won't leave your side, don't leave it. Dogs don't need explanations. They don't need coordinates. They don't fall for voices that sound just a little too perfect. They don't need maps. They just know. I've looped the dog's bark under my broadcast tonight, just low enough that it's almost imperceptible. A rhythm, a warning, and maybe a guide. Stay tuned. If your dog won't stop barking, maybe it's trying to keep you here. The barking loop's still running beneath this broadcast. I lowered it just enough so most people won't hear it consciously, but it's there. A safety net. A tether. Like an anchor tied to the last instincts we haven't overruled with logic and denial. Dogs bark. And somewhere deep in our bones we still listen. But the reports coming in tonight, they've gone quiet in a new way. Not fewer calls. Just different. They're all saying the same thing now. No screams. No sirens. No growls. Just an unsettling phrase repeated across at least 6 messages from different locations. It's calm. Too calm. Nothing feels wrong. And if that doesn't terrify you, then maybe you haven't been paying attention. Because nothing should feel normal anymore. Nothing is normal anymore. When something feels not wrong, it's because whatever was wrong has already finished its work. And now it's watching to see what we'll do. That's how the first reports from the white zones started. I didn't call them that. They did. Whoever or whatever is sending these signals. Let me explain. 3 hours ago, a listener from the east, Mira, nurse, early 30s, sharp mind, called in. She'd evacuated with a group to a small, abandoned town marked safe on an old survivalist map. Said it was eerie how perfect it seemed. No debris. No sign of struggle. Houses untouched. Mail still in the boxes. Not even dust. But here's the thing. No people. No birds. No bugs. No wind. No sound. Just white. Not color, not light. Just white. An absence. A flattening of perception. Like the place had been wiped clean not by destruction, but by forgetting. She said when they walked in, their ears popped. Like altitude shift. Then the quiet started getting loud. I know that sounds contradictory. But anyone who's lived in radio knows exactly what that means. The absence of sound pressing inward. Like static you feel behind your eyes. A silence so pure it becomes unbearable. They stayed for 10 minutes. That's it. And every one of them left with a headache. Some with nosebleeds. One man vomited halfway back to the truck. But Mira said the worst part? They couldn't remember the names of the streets they'd walked. Or which houses they entered. Or what time they got there. She said it was like the place took something. Not violently. Not loudly. Just gently. Like dust swept under the rug. I checked her location. Coordinates match a real town. Used to be called Colden Pike. Population 412, last census. I looked it up. It's not listed anymore. No Wikipedia page. No county reference. Gone. Scrubbed. Except one thing. A deep web archive from a community newsletter dated 2006. Buried in the classifieds. A missing dog notice. She just stopped barking, it said. Just stared out the window and never moved again. That's the only remnant. A dog that stopped barking. A place that stopped existing. A silence so loud it erases names. So now I'm issuing a new advisory. If you enter a place and feel your mind sliding, your memories softening, leave. Immediately. Take a video. Speak your name. Say the date. Anchor yourself. Because these white zones aren't dead. They're empty. Vacant not of people, but of meaning. They're what's left behind after something chews through the fabric of presence itself. I tried scanning the Colden Pike coordinates with spectral radio. Got back one signal. One word. Whispered again and again, in a tone that barely cracked the frequency threshold. Submit. That's it. No threat. No demand. Just an invitation. A calm, neutral tone. Like someone asking you to sit. To stay. To forget. And that, I think, is worse than any scream. Because if they can convince you nothing's wrong, then they've already won. So I'm keeping the dog bark on loop. I'm keeping the lights low, the sounds real, the windows shut. And I'm keeping this mic hot. Because we don't just fight them with noise. We fight them with narrative. With stories. With names. And if they're trying to erase us, then I'll carve our voices into the walls of this station if I have to. You're still listening. And that means we're still here. The dog bark loop gave out an hour ago. I didn't turn it off. It just stopped. No glitch. No fade out. Just the kind of ending that feels deliberate, like the close of a chapter you didn't know you were writing. 1 second it was there, pulsing beneath my words like a heartbeat I could borrow. The next, it was gone. I sat in that silence longer than I meant to. Not the dangerous kind. Not the hollow, mimicked calm of the white zones. Just stillness. Personal. Tired. And I started to feel it creeping in. The edge of something soft. The pull of surrender. That voice again, in the back of my skull. Submit. But I didn't. Not then. Because a voice cut through it. A new message, bouncing off 3 relays I've never used before. Raw signal. Analog. Wobbly modulation like someone was holding the mic too close and too tight. A woman. Shaky, but not scared. She said, I walked 53 miles in broken shoes. My feet are raw. I've got 2 cans of peaches, 1 half-dead flashlight, and a copy of the Gospel of Thomas the First found in a bus station. And still I'm here. Still breathing. Still broadcasting. Then she laughed. Just once. The kind of laugh that dares the void to try harder. Name's Cam, she added. I don't have a station. Don't have a tower. Just a rig I duct-taped together from a church AV closet and a weather radio. I'm on the air. I'm not giving up. And I don't think you should either. That's it. That's all she said. But I felt something shift. Not out there, in here. Inside me. Because in a world this broken, where maps lie and dogs go silent and voices twist themselves into hollow doppelgangers, faith still transmits. And not the kind you bottle or brand or sell. I'm talking about real faith. The kind you find in a blistered foot, a bent wire, a patched signal barely strong enough to ride the wind. The kind that makes a woman named Cam walk 53 miles in shoes that bleed her just to say, I'm still here. That's the kind I remember from my grandmother. She kept a coffee tin full of matchbooks, each one with a verse scribbled inside. She said when the world got dark, you strike a verse like fire. Watch it burn just long enough to see a step forward. I opened the drawer next to the broadcast board just now. Guess what's in there? An old matchbook from Dell's Diner. My first job. Inside, written in smudged blue pen. Hope travels slower, but it doesn't stop. I don't remember writing it. But maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe that's the point. I played Cam's message back again. And again. Each time, her voice steadied. Or maybe it was me. Maybe my ears stopped shaking. I've started logging these kinds of moments. Not just the horrors. Not just the screams and the mimicry and the vanishing towns. The sparks. The pieces of human faith still burning at the edges of the dark. I call them signal prayers. Cam's was the third tonight. The first came from a man who sang over the shortwave for 8 minutes. Just hymns. Off-key. Heart wide open. The second was a child reciting multiplication tables in a whisper. Over and over, like armor. These aren't cries for help. They're declarations. Proof. Declarations that say, I know what's out there. But I'm not going quietly. And neither should you. If you're listening, if you're holed up in a basement with a transistor radio and 3 cans of soup, broadcast. Doesn't have to be loud. Doesn't have to be smart. Doesn't have to be right. Just has to be yours. Speak what's real to you. Read a poem. List your regrets. Whistle your grandfather's song. Count the freckles on your arm. Remind yourself that your voice matters. That you are not just a vessel for panic or propaganda. You are a broadcaster. Every breath, every step, every resistance to the nothing, they're all broadcast. So light a candle in your heart. Strike a match from your memory. Whisper through the static. I'm still here. That's what I'm doing now. The air outside is heavy. Too quiet. The static has grown soft again. But I don't need the loop anymore. I've got something stronger. A voice. A name. A blistered journey and a duct-taped transmitter. And a matchbook verse written in my own forgotten hand. Hope travels slower. But it doesn't stop. The matchbook is still in front of me. I've read that line at least 24 times now. Hope travels slower, but it doesn't stop. Every time I speak it out loud, the words settle deeper. Like they belong to me again. Like they were never lost, just waiting. But as dawn creeps closer, or whatever pretends to be dawn these days, I've started to feel a change in the way the station breathes. Yes, breathes. You'd laugh if you could see me now, sitting cross-legged on the floor of this booth. Cables snaking around me like roots, the red-on-air light casting long shadows across the wall. I haven't spoken in a while. Not to the mic. Not out loud. I needed the silence. But something else spoke first. Not long after I signed off, I heard it. The voice that wasn't a voice. It didn't come through the board. Not through a call or the backup receiver or even a corrupted frequency. It came from behind me. Close. Personal. Right behind my left ear. Just a breath first. Then words, if you can call them that. Because it knew words, but didn't use them the way we do. It felt like someone stringing letters together by taste, not meaning. Like it was savoring the shape of syllables instead of understanding them. Still, I felt the message. Not with my ears. With my bones. We do not speak to you. We speak through you. I turned. No one there. But the cold in the room dropped instantly. The kind of cold that isn't just temperature, it's absence. The void you feel in a room someone's just left, or maybe never arrived in the first place. I spoke without thinking. Who's we? There was no reply. Just the lights flickering. And then the speakers, every one of them, came alive all at once. No static. No humming. Just my own voice. Not a recording. Not a playback. It was me. Saying things I've never said. Reading notes I've never written. Telling stories I've never lived. A memory about my childhood dog, except I never had one. A story about a broken piano, except I've never played. A confession of a name I don't know, but the voice said it like it belonged to me. I yanked every wire I could reach. Silence. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like closing a door that had already let something inside. I checked the old emergency mic. The analog one we never use unless the main board goes down. The needle was twitching. Without input. Without power. It moved like a heartbeat. Too fast. Too precise. I whispered again, "Who are you?" And then the air shimmered. That's the only way I can describe it. like heat rising off asphalt, but vertical. In the center of the room, no light, just movement in stillness. And from that movement came a feeling, familiarity, recognition, longing, like something or someone wearing the shape of your memories to see if it fit. And then I heard my name, but wrong, bent, drawn out, like it was being pulled through teeth that had never spoken before. I didn't answer. I backed away. And that's when I felt it, inside my mouth, like a pressure building beneath my tongue. Something trying to speak through me. So I bit down, hard, drew blood, just enough to remember I was still here, that my voice was mine. And then, slowly, the pressure lifted. I went back to the mic. I spoke into it. I said my name, my real one, twice, soft but steady. The lights stopped flickering. The emergency mic went still. And the booth sighed. I don't know if it was a win, or just a pause. But I do know this. They don't need your ears. They want your mouth. They want to speak. And if you go quiet for too long, if you let the stillness in too deep, you might not recognize what comes out the next time you open your lip. So here's the message tonight. If you feel something crawling behind your tongue, bite. If your voice says something you didn't think, stop speaking. If the words don't sound like they're for you, they probably aren't. They're testing resonance. They're looking for hosts. And radio? Radio's just the beginning. So speak only what you know, even if it's small, even if it's just your name. Say it out loud now. Wherever you are, I'll wait. Good. You sound like you. I'll be back when the air feels lighter. After that last broadcast, I turned everything off. Not for long, just a few minutes. But I needed to hear what the world sounded like without me in it. Without any voice at all. And you know what? There wasn't silence. Not real silence. There were fires. Somewhere in the distance. Maybe a town, maybe the old wind farm. I saw the flicker of flames painting the edge of the horizon red. Too red. Not the wild kind, not the dancing chaos of a forest blaze. No. These fires were still. Controlled. Arranged. Like someone had set them. And then came the footstep. Not out there, in here. The hallway. The break room. Right outside the booth. Soft at first. Measured. I didn't breathe. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Just sat with my hand hovering over the on-air switch like it was a detonator. And the footsteps stopped. Right at the booth door. No knock. No sound. Just the weight of presence pressing against the other side. I whispered, "Who's there?" No reply. Just that feeling again, like the air had thickened into something else. Something watching. Waiting. I slid off the stool. Crawled toward the side window, keeping my shadow low. Pulled the blackout curtain just enough to peer through. And I saw nothing. But I felt it. Closer than glass should allow. I pressed my ear to the floor. Another old habit from years ago during lightning storms. You can hear things there the mic never catches. This time, I heard breathing. Not above me. Below. In the foundation. Right under the booth. Steady. Wrong. Like something massive pretending to be small. I whispered again. "Who are you?" And this time I got an answer. 3 words. Not spoken. In my head. "You invited us." And then came the sharp knock at the door. Not polite. Not warning. Final. I jumped. But the door never opened. Not then. Just a second knock. And then a memory. Something I hadn't thought about in years. Being 10 years old, sitting on my father's lap during a blackout. Our house was candlelit. Rain hammered the roof. He told me if I ever heard knocking with no footsteps, never open. I asked him why. He said, "Because sometimes sound walks alone." And I thought he was just being poetic. But now I don't think he was talking about metaphors. I think he knew something. I think he'd heard it too. Outside, the fires flickered higher. And inside, the air shifted again. Like the booth had exhaled. And then, finally, the footsteps resumed. But this time, away. Soft. Slow. Satisfied. I waited 5 minutes. 10. 15. Then I opened the booth door. Nothing. No footprints. No scorched carpet. Just a strip of paper wedged into the crack. I picked it up. Oh, yellowed. Handwritten. 5 words. You're doing so well. And I don't know what scares me more, that it was meant to comfort me, or that it was true, because I have been doing well, too well. My voice hasn't cracked. My signals have held. I haven't lost time in days. But what if that's not a sign of survival? What if it's assimilation? What if this is how they win? Not by killing us, but by encouraging us, by whispering in the silence just enough truth to earn our trust, by mimicking what we need, hope, comfort, routine, by knocking gently until we open ourselves. I don't know anymore, but I still have the mic, I still have the red light, and I still have my voice, even if it trembles now, even if something else is listening from below. So here's tonight's message. If you hear footsteps without origin, don't speak. If you see fire that doesn't move, don't stare. And if they tell you you're doing well, ask who they are. Ask why they want you to believe that. Because survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about staying yours. I'll be back after sunrise if it comes. I waited for sunrise. It didn't come. Not the way it used to, anyway. There was no slow warming of the sky, no pale golden line stretched across the horizon like a promise. Just a dim, gray light. Diffuse. As if the sun had been blurred behind something we weren't meant to see. Still, it was enough to read by. Enough to confirm I was still in the same place. Still surrounded by these walls, these cables, this booth. Still me. I reached for my coffee. It had gone cold. I didn't remember it happening. There's a new kind of exhaustion now. Not the physical kind. Not even the emotional one. It's deeper. A tiredness in the bones of the world. Like reality itself is nodding off. Like everything's starting to forget. And maybe that's what led me back to the box. The old wooden crate in the supply closet. I hadn't opened it in years. Thought it was filled with mic cables. Maybe a broken keyboard. But no. Inside, stacked carefully, were letters. Hundreds of them. Some postmarked. Most not. Some yellowed. Some fresh. All addressed to this station. I used to read them on the air. Back when this was a softer show. Stories from travelers. Confessions from the lonely. Ghost sightings. Love notes. Weird recipes. All of it. I thought they were all long gone. But they weren't. They were waiting. So I brought them back into the booth. Spread them out on the floor. No order. Just fragments of human moments, scattered like leaves across autumn memory. And one envelope caught my eye. No stamp. No return address. Just one word scrawled across the front. Train. I opened it. Inside was a small, folded map of the city's rail lines, ones that haven't run in over a decade. Scribbled across the center was a message. Don't wait for arrivals. Read the ones who never left. And beneath it, a name. Platform 3. My heart stalled. Because I know that place. The station near the edge of town, where the commuter line used to pass through on its way to the city. I used to take that train in the early years of this job. Before I got the night shift. Before I got comfortable in solitude. I haven't thought of that station in years. But I remember Platform 3. Always colder than the others. Always empty. Always watching. I kept reading the letter. And then I saw it. Tiny script on the back. They wrote before they vanished. Letters to no one. To everyone. We left them. Find them. I don't know how to explain what came over me. But I left. Took the recorder. Left a tape looping. Packed a crowbar, a flashlight, and the old tape deck that still runs on batteries. Left a note in the booth. If I'm not back by noon, burn this place. It remembers too much. I made it to the station by foot. No birds. No wind. The platform felt like it hadn't been touched in years. But there were footprints in the dust. Fresh. Mine were the only leaving tracks. Everything else led in. I climbed down to the track bed and followed it into the tunnel. And that's where I found them. Letters. dozens. Some pinned to the tunnel walls. Some stuffed between rail ties. Some wrapped in plastic and stuck inside broken lights. All written by passengers who never made it home. I read every single one. One stood out. A man named Felix, mid-40s, wrote in perfect cursive. He said, "I got on the train like always, fell asleep, woke up nowhere. No conductor, no windows, just the sound of something breathing from the engine. I walked forward, car after car after car, all empty, except one. That's where I found the others. They weren't panicked, weren't screaming, just writing, page after page, folding letters and leaving them on the seat. I asked why. They said, 'We write to keep our names. We write so we don't disappear.' So I'm writing this, now. If you find it, read it aloud. Say my name. Keep me real." So I did. Right there, in the tunnel. I said it. "Felix Harrow. You are real. You are remembered. And I swear to you." The wind moved. Just once. Like an exhale from stone. Like something old had let go. I left the rest of the letters where I found them. Didn't feel right to take them. But I carried that one. Folded it. Brought it back to the booth. I've pinned it above the soundboard. It watches me now. Or maybe it grounds me. I don't know anymore. But this I do know. If you find letters, read them. Read them out loud. Even if you don't know the names. Even if the ink is smeared. Even if the voice in your head tells you it doesn't matter. Because it does. Every word is an anchor. Every sentence is resistance. They want us voiceless. They want us vanished. But letters? Letters linger. And if we read them, if we keep the names alive, they can't take everything. I'll be back soon. With more names. More voices. More proof. I haven't stopped thinking about Felix. His letter is still pinned above the soundboard, swaying slightly each time the ventilation kicks in, like it's nodding. Like it's breathing with me. And maybe it is. Maybe some part of him hitchhiked back with me from that tunnel, curled up in the creases of the paper, folded between ink and intention. Since I read his name out loud, the air has shifted in here. Not lighter. Just watched. But it's not the same kind of presence. Not the thing from the booth floor. Not the mimicry in the wires. This is different. Like someone quietly sitting in the back of the room, listening with reverence. Waiting to be acknowledged. And I think that's what saved me when the sky opened again. Because that's what it did. Just after 3 p.m., the broadcast board shorted. Every signal died at once, even analog backup, and I stepped outside to check the tower. The sky looked wrong. Not dark. Not storming. Just too blue. Too perfect. Not a single cloud. Like it had been painted from memory, not observation. Like the world was trying to remember what normal looked like and got it almost right. And then came the noise. Not thunder. Not engines. Broadcast. Hundreds of them. All at once. Layered. Stacked. Different voices speaking over each other in dozens of tongues, speeds, cadences. So many it became one long, impossibly loud tone. Too wide to hear. Too narrow to escape. I fell to my knees. Not because of the volume. Because of the pressure. It wasn't in the air. It was in my mind. Like my own thoughts were being overwritten. Replaced with new programming, new syntax, new instincts. I heard myself whispering things I didn't understand. Repeating names I'd never learned. Reciting what sounded like coordinates, but in shapes instead of numbers. I crawled back into the station, clawed at the drawer beneath the booth, yanked out an old grounding headset. Military grade, blocks all outside RF signals. Slipped it on. Pressed the nodes to my temples. And suddenly, silence. Not outside. Inside. The thoughts stopped trying to rewrite me. But just before they cut off entirely, I heard one last voice. Female. Measured. Familiar. My own. But wrong. Stretched. Detached. She said. Broadcasts from the sky. You've passed the calibration. Please remain still. And then everything went dead again. The air. The sound. even the hum of the tower. I sat in the dark booth, headset still pressed against my skin, and I thought, what if the voices from the sky aren't coming from up? What if they're not satellites? What if they're coming from within us? From above our frequencies? From the part of ourselves we forgot how to hear? I started testing the theory. Pulled the emergency dial from the board. Stripped the transmitter down to raw copper. Built a crude receiver from the tape head and a condenser mic. And I found a frequency. Not on any band I know. Not readable by any device. But when I tuned into it, I heard breath. Thousands of breath. Layered. Rhythmic. Like an atmosphere of lives exhaled all at once. I recorded 3 minutes of it, and when I played it back, it started speaking again. Only this time, it told me what it wanted. Names. Just names. To echo back. To measure the presence still remaining. I gave it one. Felix Harrow. The tone shifted. Smoothed. And then it said, "One light remains calibrated." I think these broadcasts from the sky, they're measuring something. Not resistance. Not defiance. Humanity. The pieces of us we leave behind when everything else is stripped away. Our names. Our stories. Our breath in a dark tunnel. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only way we survive this. Not by hiding. Not by running. But by broadcasting ourselves so completely that they can't override us. They can mimic a voice. But not a life. So keep speaking. Keep writing. Send out your name like a flare. And if the sky answers, make sure you're the one echoing back. I'll be listening. I'm still here, I think. After I sent Felix's name into that strange breath frequency and the broadcast responded, "One light remains calibrated," I couldn't bring myself to speak for a long while. Not into the mic. Not even to myself. I just sat here, fingers resting against the edge of the soundboard, waiting for something to change. For the lights to dim. For the floor to open. For the sky to scream again. But nothing happened. Nothing obvious, anyway. The quiet stretched out long and wide, and in it, I felt something I hadn't felt in days. A kind of stillness that didn't feel threatening. A stillness with room in it. I used that room to breathe. To remember. To feel the weight of all the names I've spoken into this mic. The people I've never seen. The lives I've carried, one voice at a time, across an airwave that no longer belongs only to us. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't day one of the outbreak. Not really. This was day one of the story. The first chapter we write after waking up to the truth that we are not alone. Not in the spiritual sense. Not even in the cosmic one. But in the narrative sense. We are being read, watched, listened to. And for the first time in history, the ones doing the listening may not want to hurt us. They may just want to understand us. To become us. And that is far more terrifying. Because pain you can resist. But understanding? That's how you get pulled in. That's how you forget which words were ever truly yours. I was about to sign off for the night, maybe the last time, when the emergency board blinked. Just once. And then a sound. A looped phrase, fractured and reassembled over and over until it settled into a language I recognized. "You are not the first voice." And beneath it, a tone. Low. Ancient. Rhythmic. It sounded like a heartbeat slowed to a crawl. Like something sleeping, but not deeply. Waiting. Recording. I asked, quietly into the mic. "What are you?" And for the first time since this began, it answered clearly. "We are memory. Worn thin by longing. We seek warmth." That's all. But it was enough. Because if they are memory, ours or someone else's, then maybe we're not fighting an invasion. Maybe we're fighting a reunion. Maybe we're echoes trying to remember what it felt like to be real. I looked up at Felix's letter, still swaying, still watching, and I said his name again, out loud. Felix Harrow. The tone shifted, just slightly, and in the distance, past the hills, I saw a single light blink on. Then another, and another, not bright, not coordinated, just steady, like people waking up, Like someone struck a match. I turned all the dials on the board, boosted the signal, stripped the filters, removed the limiters, and I began reading the names from the letters I'd found in the train tunnel. One after another. Some shaky, some smudged, some unsigned, but still full of soul. Every name I spoke made the signal stronger, made the room warmer. And then I heard them. Not footsteps, not whispers. Voices. Real ones. From the listeners. Crackling through the static. One by one. Repeating names. Telling stories. Singing lullabies. Laughing. Not the layered mimic laugh, but the human kind. The kind that comes with tears. I couldn't hold it together. Not anymore. I wept into the mic. Not because of fear. Because of presence. Because we were here. Still here. And so were they. So are you. If you're hearing this moment, this breath, this broadcast, let this be your flare, your match, your signal. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to survive it. You just have to be. And speak. Because that's what keeps the fire lit. That's what confuses the ones who would hollow us out. That's what warms the watchers who no longer remember the shape of their own names. Speak yours. Say it now. Say it loud. I'll be listening. And I'll be here. Always.